Welcome to the Cultural Video Analysis exercise. It will give you practice recognizing the cultural features in action and help you learn to use the various sections of the toolkit. You'll have a chance to conduct a cultural analysis based on what you can observe about people, the way they express themselves, the way they interact with their colleagues, and the way they talk about the world. The intercultural scenario in this exercise highlights the way cultural dimensions show up in people's behavior and expectations, and how those dimensions can affect the outcomes in business interaction. The scenario shows people with different characteristics coming together for a collaborative project. It illustrates the kind of confusion that can occur when the cultural features aren't shared, even when people have the best intentions. Your job is to be a cultural analyst, to watch for the signs of cultural features and identify their position on each cultural dimension. Once you've identified their cultural tendencies, you'll use the toolkit to predict the kinds of confusion or conflict that could arise when they interact and suggest things they could do to avoid or overcome problems. After watching each segment as many times as you like, you'll create a cultural profile for the characters from each company. Once you finish your analysis, I'll review the segment with you and point out the features as they come up in the story, so you can confirm your analysis and catch any clues you might have missed. When you've completed an analysis for each of the two companies, you'll be able to identify the cultural dimensions that are not shared between the two. Based on these differences, you'll create a list of the kinds of challenges they might have working together. Next, we'll show you the first meeting of the two companies and the reaction of people on both sides to demonstrate the way the cultural differences might play out in a real business interaction. You'll then have a chance to reflect on ways that the people on each side could have modified their behavior to be more effective. We'll show a revised version of the meeting with the characters using the toolkit methodology for managing cultural differences. Have your cultural analysis toolkit ready. By watching the segments in order and going through the steps, you'll use all the sections in the toolkit and get the most out of the exercise. After each video segment, we'll stop so you can think about what you've seen and complete a specific assignment. I'll let you know which sections of the toolkit to use for each one. The scenarios aren't about people in any specific country. Although countries have strong cultural tendencies, when they're taken as a whole, internally they're very diverse, with differences between large cities and rural areas, people in different socioeconomic groups, and so on. By learning to recognize the cultural features without referring to a country generalization, you'll be able to interact successfully with anyone you meet, wherever they're from. Before you watch this segment, review the Gathering Data section of the toolkit for each cultural feature. You'll be observing interpersonal behavior, so focus on the sections that address the way people behave. Once you know what to look for each cultural dimension, you can start the video. Write down the features you observe as you watch the segment and review it as many times as you like. When you're ready, make a list of all features you've identified in the segment. You're about to watch a video segment introducing Raul, owner and CEO of Argotec Pharmaceutical Products, a small but growing company, and his executive assistant, Iwa. Argotec holds 2 patents that have enabled them to produce a medication dispensing unit for hospitals and pharmacies that features enhanced reliability and security, and they believe it has excellent possibilities for the international market. They've been approached by RPI Pharma, an overseas company selling related products in their home market, and moving into new markets as well. Raul likes the fact that RPI isn't that big. He doesn't trust the pharmaceutical giants to treat Argotec as a partner, and he wants to retain as much control as possible. In addition, RPI has mentioned that the hospitals in their home market are about to upgrade, so the timing is very good to introduce Argotec's products there. Raul is getting ready to represent Argotec on a visit to RPI. This will be Argotec's first international collaboration.
All right, I'll see you next Tuesday then. Give my regards to your wife. Hi, honey.
Hi, Dad. Let me help you with that.
I thought I would have done here sooner, but my first meeting this morning was next to that bakery with the wonderful croissants, so I had to pick some up. And then I ran 3 red lights to catch up.
Oh, the almond ones. You better be careful driving so fast. The fines are really high for speeding on Union now. You're gonna get caught one of these days.
No need to worry. You know I went to school with the chief of police and the district attorney. I'm immune to speeding tickets.
Just a minute. Hi, it's Iowa. Listen, I'm running a little behind this morning. Could you let the guy from Adler know I need to move our meeting back a little? Yeah, let's say an hour. Great. I'll see him then. Thanks. Well, glad to see you here in one piece. Oh, I wanted to show you. Here's a picture from Yuri's game.
Oh.
He was so happy you were there to see him make that big goal.
I wouldn't have missed it. Of course I was there. He gets his speed from his grandfather. And before long, he'll be upholding the family tradition, wearing the green and yellow jersey.
Well, I'm not sure how I feel about sending him to boarding school. It's going to be really hard having him so far away.
Good for him. Help him mature. He already has all the advantages of family background, but he needs exposure to really high up people if he's going to have the right connections. Then one day, when he takes over this company, he'll know business leaders all over the world. Everything's international now. Which reminds me, how are things coming with my visit to RPI?
Fine, the schedule's all set. You're staying 6 nights. We have meetings arranged from Monday through Thursday and a plant tour on Friday. I'm putting together the numbers they asked for now. Mom will have the spreadsheet on last year's sales this afternoon. And I have that report you wanted on their pricing. Let's see. It's here.
Good. And can you schedule an appointment for me with Paul from Laguna Medical and Vivek from GMA? I need our suppliers to be really comfortable with this trip. I want to sit down and go over all the details with them and make sure they're comfortable with the numbers. I don't like being in the position of having to make a decision about a partner they've never met. I'll have to decide for all of us whether RPI is a good partner and if this is a good deal after only 5 days of meetings. None of us is really comfortable doing business with someone we don't know.
Well,
This international expansion is keeping me awake at night.
well, RPI has a good reputation, and you have excellent instincts for good opportunities.
I hope so. This whole way of doing things feels so unnatural to me. I'm used to spending time getting to know someone we're going to trust with our product. Meet their families, go to their homes, get a little sense of whether they have integrity. And usually we meet together in one room to discuss these things face to face so we can talk things over.
I know you're worried, but it's going to work out just fine.
At least I can give Paul and Vivek a report in the evenings while I'm there, go over what's happening. I'm thinking of doing something preliminary with RPI, like maybe just for the next year. That way we can see how things go. You know, if things don't work out, we can talk to other companies, make a change if we have to. I don't want to get committed too fast to a partner we barely know.
Well, like Paul said, let's keep our options open and change direction if we have to. Oh, that sales rep from Sterling Equipment called again. He wants to take you to dinner.
We already get our dial faces from Laguna. I don't need another supplier. Tell him I'm heading out of town and I can't schedule anything. This is the 3rd time I rescheduled this guy. I don't know why he isn't getting the message.
I know. He seems inexperienced. I'll let him know. Oh, I wanted to go over the memo of understanding RPI sent last week. They said we should make sure to look over pages.
Now that you've had a chance to watch Raul and Iowa in action, pause the video to complete a cultural profile based on the features you observed. Use the cultural profile chart to mark where you think they are for each cultural dimension. Now that you've completed your cultural profile, let's go through the segment together to review the cultural features in the segment. You probably noticed right away that Raul is multitasking and arriving late, and he doesn't seem very apologetic about it.
Down here sooner, but my first meeting this morning was next to that bakery with the wonderful croissants, so I had to...
This is an indication of a flow orientation to time and organization. Did you notice Iowa's desk? She seems pretty casual about organization too. Raoul doesn't seem to be overly concerned with rules or authority.
And then I ran 3 red lights to catch up.
This suggests a particularist tendency. Raoul isn't describing an emergency situation, just his typical behavior when he's running late. Raoul seems to place a lot of value on personal connections and school ties.
You know I went to school with the chief of police and the district attorney. I'm immune to speeding tickets.
His comment suggests a strong relationship orientation, and also some birthright tendencies. Iowa's behavior supports the interpretation that there is a flow tendency operating here.
Could you let the guy from Adler know I need to move our meeting back a little?
She isn't upset that Raoul is late, and she's happy to move another meeting back. And, judging from the way the call ends, this isn't a problem for the person she's rescheduling with either. Even though Raoul is late, he and Iowa spend quite a bit of time socializing, another indication of a relationship orientation. And this is flow behavior again, too. Task-oriented people visit with one another too, of course, but they're more likely to get down to business first and visit at the end of a meeting, especially if it's late getting started. And did you notice Raoul's body language? He's quite expressive. You can tell what he's feeling just by watching him. What did you notice about the discussion about Iowa's son? Did you catch the indications of birthright orientation in Raoul's comments?
He already has all the advantages of family background, but he needs exposure to really high-up people if he's going to have the right connections. Then one day, when he takes over this company, he'll know business leaders all over the world.
Raoul has a strong sense of social class. He's also expecting his grandson to take his place as Argotech's CEO based on his family affiliation, long before his grandson has had a chance to demonstrate skills or accomplishments that would be relevant to the job. An achievement-oriented approach would be to see whether the grandson has a good head for business first, and have him start at the bottom and work his way up in the company. Even if a CEO wanted his grandson to take over someday, the company's structure and policies would require him to develop appropriate credentials first. The fact that this is a family business,
Mom will have the spreadsheet on last year's sales this afternoon.
with at least 3 members of a family working together, is a further sign of a relationship orientation. What about the individualism and collectivism dimension? Raoul seems to have a strong preference for involving his network of business partners in decisions.
GMA, I need our suppliers to be really comfortable with this trip. I want to sit down, go over all the details with them, and make sure they're comfortable with the numbers.
This is an indication of a collectivist approach to making decisions. Raoul feels that he isn't going to have time to really get to know RPI.
I'm used to spending time getting to know someone we're going to trust with our product. Meet their families, go to their homes, get a little sense of whether they have integrity.
Rather than do business based on a detailed contract, he wants to know his business partners personally, another sign of a relationship orientation. And he's uncomfortable making a decision about RPI on his own.
I'll have to decide for all of us whether RPI is a good partner, and if this is a good deal, after only 5 days of meetings.
Even though he'll be away, he's building in a mechanism for keeping his colleagues informed and getting their input.
At least I can give Paul and Vivek a report in the evenings while I'm there, go over what's happening.
Again, an indication of collectivism. You might have noticed that Raoul is very focused on opportunity and isn't making plans for very far in the future.
I'm thinking of doing something preliminary with RPI, like maybe just for the next year. That way we can see how things go.
This suggests a short-term orientation, and so does the fact that Argotech isn't committed to a particular plan.
Well, like Paul said, let's keep our options open and change direction if we have to.
A focus on flexibility and seizing the moment is typical of short-term strategy. What else can we figure out from this segment? Well, Raoul is going to great lengths to avoid telling a sales representative that he already has a supplier for dial faces.
Tell him I'm heading out of town and I can't schedule anything.
And he and Iowa both think he's sending a clear signal.
I don't know why he isn't getting the message.
I know. He seems Inexperienced.
Raul's response to the salesperson is a good example of indirect communication, conveying a message through hints and vagueness rather than saying explicitly what you think, to avoid hurting other people's feelings. So, in this segment, we've seen pretty good indications that Raul and Iowa have the following tendencies: birthright, particularist, relationship, collectivist, short-term, indirect, expressive, and flow. Their cultural profile would look something like this. Now we'll do the same thing for the people Raul is going to be visiting. Just as you did before, watch the next video segment as many times as you like and list the cultural features you see in the interaction. When you're done, we'll review them together. You're about to meet the people at RPI Pharma. It's a slightly larger company than Argotech with some recent experience in international markets. RPI is already selling its products abroad and is looking at Asian markets. If Raul's meeting with them goes well, RPI will take Argotech's products with them into these markets too. RPI's management is very enthusiastic about Argotech's technological features, which they believe will give them an advantage with current and future customers. Mana, Vice President of Corporate Relations, is the person RPI has designated to meet with Raul.
Good morning, Mana.
Good morning, Carla. Everything all right?
Yes, I'm sorry I'm late. The third quarter sales figures weren't quite ready.
Oh, well, let's have a look. I'm not seeing the breakout by industry that I asked for. Did Charles understand that I needed it?
I told him, but he was in a rush getting these out, so he must have forgotten.
You should have checked on that. I really need those numbers before my meeting tomorrow with the finance people.
I'm sorry. I will get the information from him this morning, and I'll run a new report.
Just bring them to me once the information's been added. Let's see. Oh, has marketing decided whether or not they're going to move forward with the Malaysia project?
Yes, good news on that. Better than we'd hoped for, actually. Paul Martinez has given us the go-ahead to start in June, and they've increased our budget from $1 million to $1.2 million. Apparently, he was very impressed with the prospectus you sent.
Oh, well, that is excellent news. 1.2 million, that's better than we expected. Good. Paul spent a lot of time looking over that prospectus, but it was a big decision. Southeast Asia is a completely new territory.
I know how hard you've worked to maintain RPI's reputation.
Well, we can't afford a misstep. I had to make the case that this project was consistent with our corporate direction up to now, and that the Malaysian partnership would be solid moving forward.
Well, it looks like it's paid off.
Well, I wanted to thank you for your work that you did on their company history. It was really important to show that they had a stable track record. I'm happy that Paul liked the prospectus. I've been hoping to work with him for some time since he started this company, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to gain some visibility. I worked really hard putting that all together.
Well, it looks like he's noticing your work now.
Well, I wanted to go over some more of these weekly industry reports. The content is very good here. It seems to me that you have an excellent grasp of what I'm looking for, especially with your interpretations of the weekly focus group results. It looks like on a couple of these, you left the recommendation section blank.
Oh, well, that's because I mentioned my recommendations in the challenges section, so I would have just been repeating myself.
Well, it's important with these documents that we follow procedure to keep things parallel. It may seem redundant, but that just keeps everything organized. So if you'll just add your recommendations to the right section, then you'll be done.
Got it. I will get this to you by the end of the day.
You can wait till tomorrow. I actually have to leave the office early this evening. I'm going to a retirement party. Not the sort of thing I enjoy very much. I hardly knew him.
Yeah, after a long day at work, I would rather be at home with a good book.
Well, we worked in the same department, so it would be bad for him if I didn't go.
I'm sure it'll be relatively painless.
I spend so much time with my colleagues in the office, I'd rather not see them in my private time, but it's part of the job, so. Well, if you'll confirm with Charles and get me those sales figures I need, then I'll be all set for my meeting tomorrow. So, thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Now that you've seen people at RPI interacting with each other, pause the video to complete a cultural profile based on the features you observed, just like you did for part 1. Now we'll go over the video again to see which cultural features we can identify. You probably noticed some differences between the way Mana and Carla think and interact to the people at Argotech. For example, you probably noticed a difference in their attitude towards time and schedules. Both Mana and Carla were expecting their meeting to start promptly at 9 o'clock, and Carla apologizes for being just a few minutes late. You may also have noticed the way they greeted each other.
Good morning, Mana.
Good morning, Carla.
They took very little time socializing before getting down to business, an indication of a task orientation. This is very different from Raul and Iwa. Mana is a no-nonsense communicator, isn't she? She doesn't hesitate to let Carla know when she needs to make changes.
You should have checked on that.
And Carla accepts her criticism without defensiveness.
I'm sorry, I will get the information from him this morning.
Carla's obviously not surprised or upset by this very direct style of communication. What else did you notice about their interpersonal style? We've seen that neither one gets very emotional about problems or criticism. How about when things go right?
Oh, well, that is excellent news.
Although she's clearly pleased, Mana doesn't display much of a reaction to good news either, a sign that she's quite neutral in the way that she communicates emotion. The way that RPI representatives dress is plain and understated, which supports this interpretation. You might also have noticed that someone named Paul Martinez made the decision to proceed with a Malaysian expansion. Having a single decision-maker rather than a committee is an indication of an individualist approach to management. Mana's teaching Carla how RPI's business works.
It's really important to show that they had a stable track record.
She emphasizes the company's history and reputation, and the importance of continuity.
Paul spent a lot of time looking over that prospectus, but it was a big decision. Southeast Asia is a completely new territory.
RPI's approach to risk management is to be cautious and try to ensure stability for years to come, a typical approach for a company with a long-term orientation. You may have caught the fact that Paul Martinez is new to the company, but is making important decisions.
Paul Martinez has given us the go-ahead to start in June, and they've increased our budget from $1 million to $1.2 million. Apparently, he was very impressed with the prospectus you sent.
Mana is happy to have a chance for him to see the quality of her work and hopes it will help her performance review.
I'm happy that Paul liked the prospectus. I've been hoping to work with him for some time since he started this company, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to gain some visibility. I worked really hard putting that all together.
These factors suggest an achievement orientation. In a birthright company, hiring top people in from outside is less common than promoting from inside, and promotions are based more on relationship building within the company than specific accomplishments. The fact that Mana is a woman with significant responsibility also supports an achievement interpretation. Mana's generally pleased with Carla's work, but she doesn't hesitate to let Carla know when there's room for improvement.
It looks like on a couple of these, you left the recommendation section blank.
In addition to being direct again, she's indicating concern with structure and procedure.
Well, it's important with these documents that we follow procedure to keep things parallel. It may seem redundant, but that just keeps everything organized.
Even when the rules seem sort of silly. This is an indication that Mana is quite universalist in her approach to her work, and this shows up in her attitude towards the retirement party as well.
Well, we worked in the same department, so it would be bad form if I didn't go.
Rather than come up with a creative excuse for not attending, which is what a particularist would probably do, she plays by the rules. What about Mana's lack of interest in this party, and Carla's preference for spending her evenings with a good book? These comments add support to an interpretation that people at RPI tend to be individualist, due to their high tolerance or even preference for being on their own. Collectivists would generally rather spend time with other people, and coworkers usually socialize outside of work in collectivist companies. So in this segment, we've seen pretty good indications that Mana and Carla have the following tendencies: achievement, universalist, task, individualist, long-term, direct, neutral, and schedule. Their cultural profile would look something like this. Comparing the two profiles, it looks like they differ on all 8 features. There's plenty of opportunity here for confusion and conflict. First, let's think about how the representatives of the two companies are going to feel about working with one another. Take a look at the reactions and interpretations chart in the toolkit. Pause the video here and write a quick list of the reactions Paul and Mana will probably have when they interact. Now that you've had a chance to reflect on some possible areas of miscommunication, let's see what happens when Raul finally meets with Mana.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Raul.
I'm Carla. Nice to meet you.
Oh, so nice to meet you.
Yes.
How are you today?
I'm doing just fine. Mana is waiting to meet with you, so do you mind if I show you to her office?
Please.
Great. Right this way, please.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mana, this is Raul. Hello.
Such a pleasure to meet you at last. I'm looking forward to our discussions.
Oh, well, welcome to RPI. How was your trip?
Very nice. Only a slight delay in the flight. Nothing to worry about. The hotel is excellent. Very nice, very quiet. I slept very well. Thank you for making those arrangements.
My pleasure. Can I get you anything to drink?
No, thank you. I'm just fine. I enjoyed the ride in from the hotel, by the way. The city is lovely, and you have such a nice location. I'm looking forward to getting to see more of this area.
Yes, it's a very nice neighborhood. Very convenient. I live only a few blocks away.
That is convenient. I live about 30 minutes from work, but I drive in with my wife. She's our VP of accounting.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yes, and our daughter is my executive assistant, and my brother heads up logistics, and our nephew he works in procurement. All of our key employees are people I would trust with my life.
Oh, I see. Well, shall we...
What about you? Do you have children?
Yeah, I have 2 sons. Shall we go over the preliminary contracts I sent you? I'd like to get your thoughts on the price points for the dispenser units. You said you would have some answers for us.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. I needed to meet first with my executives and our suppliers. We all have to discuss issues like this. It seems to us that your initial pricing might be a bit high. We were thinking of going in with a lower price to encourage first-time buyers, but you know your market better than we do, and of course, we trust your judgment. We accept your guidance on pricing, and if you're certain about it, we accept your pricing proposal.
Well, actually, after we talked, I was thinking we might offer a lower price point to the pharmacies, since they're slower to upgrade. But then for hospitals, we can use a higher price point and offer a bundle if the dispenser is bought with the whole system. How does that sound to you?
I see. I can't really say offhand.
Well, does that sound like a good strategy to you?
I'll have to go over the numbers and let you know.
I see. Well, we've actually worked something out here. How does that look to you?
Thank you. I'll let you know.
When?
I'll try to let you know next week.
Next week?
Yes, after I've had a chance to review it with everyone who will be affected.
Well, we won't be able to move forward without a pricing strategy.
I'll try to let you know as soon as possible. There are other things we should discuss about the contract.
All right.
This initial volume you're suggesting is very low. Based on the opportunity that you identified, with all the hospitals upgrading, we were expecting a much higher volume. The whole point is to capitalize on the hospital upgrade. Our product is the best in the market. We were expecting an aggressive sales strategy.
The whole point for us is to ensure a service agreement that is convincing to our customers and consistent with the other products we offer.
Well, I also noticed that you're proposing a 3-year exclusive sales agreement? Frankly speaking, we were thinking of starting off with more of a trial arrangement, maybe 1-year exclusive with a longer service contract that would give us both flexibility and a chance to see how things work out.
Our customers wouldn't go for the latest features if the service agreement weren't solid, and we wouldn't offer anything to them that we didn't plan to continue for at least 3 years. We have our reputation to consider, and if we lose a customer, that could take years to repair that relationship. We will increase the volume of your product each year of our relationship, and you will do very well over the course of the contract.
Well, I have discussed this with my partners, and we are willing to consider a 3-year exclusive. Let's keep talking about this. I was thinking maybe it would be a good idea for us to spend some time just getting to know each other without focusing on the business details so much just yet. I know I'm going to be meeting with their marketing group for dinner tomorrow night, but I'd like to invite you and your husband to dinner tonight. We can just relax, and maybe I can get to know this lovely city of yours.
Tonight, I'm sorry, we have plans tonight. But we'll have plenty of time to continue discussion over the course of the week. Friday, we have a tour of the plant scheduled. You'll get to see our manufacturing and processing logistics. So, do you have any other comments about the rest of the contract?
Well, I wanted to mention the delivery schedule. It has so many internal deadlines. I think it's a good idea to list all the internal steps to give an overview of our process, but this is so detailed. And these milestones have penalties attached. As long as we deliver the product to the customer on time, it doesn't matter when we finish all these intermediary steps.
Milestones are a central part of RPI's planning and project management. If we miss one, it's much harder to catch up on the next one, and the whole project could slip. Internal deadlines are how we stay on task.
But if you miss one and it throws off your whole detailed schedule, what's the point?
If we miss a milestone, we deal with the penalty outlined in the contract and we redo the schedule to catch up. Our legal team will never go for a contract that doesn't specify milestones and outline each party's obligations. It's just out of the question.
But how will you deal with changes that have to be made to the contract when conditions change? After it's signed, I mean.
What conditions? Why would you change a contract after it's been signed?
Because of market changes? Currency fluctuations? What if the deal adversely affects one partner because of things that have changed since the contract was signed?
A contract is a contract. The terms don't change just because the market does. A deal is a deal.
But a contract shouldn't be a bad deal for either partner, now or in the future. It should help us maintain the relationship between our companies. You know, as your supplier, we stand to lose a lot more than you do if there's some unexpected disaster. Insisting on an outdated agreement is predatory.
Changing a contract is illogical and impractical. I'm sorry, let me assure you that we will work to find an agreement that works for both parties involved. Why don't you take some time to look over what we proposed, write any contingencies that you may see needed, and we'll work out an agreement.
Right. Well, I'm glad we've had a chance to talk over the main issues a bit. I'll take some time and work up a counterproposal before I meet with your sales director this afternoon, and we can discuss it tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for your hospitality.
Was that Raul who just left?
Yes.
Already? I was waiting to show him out. I thought you would be at least another hour.
Well, he just left. I didn't have a chance to call you.
He just left. Well, what do you mean? Is everything okay?
Well, no. I mean, yes. Actually, it was kind of a disaster. He's not at all what I expected. I can't understand how I could be so wrong about a potential partner.
What do you mean? I mean, they have a good product and a good reputation. What on earth could he have said?
I don't know where to start. Well, you saw him when you walked him in. He was all, everything's beautiful and wonderful and a bit over the top. But he goes just as far the other way. I mentioned to him that he was being illogical and he got very angry. He seems emotionally unstable and the way he wants to do business is just crazy.
How so?
He seems to want to formalize our relationship with no legal controls in place regarding deliverables. And he said something about renegotiating a signed contract based on changing market conditions.
Really? Well, I did notice that he used flowery language, and he told me all about his 2 children.
That's another thing. It seems that all of his executives are close family members. Who knows if they're qualified or even competent? I can't imagine how they make a business decision. Actually, I do know. Very slowly. I proposed this pricing strategy to him, and he said he was going to need a week to look it over and make a decision. He's the CEO of their company, and he's come all this way to meet with us, and he needs a week to make a decision?
Wow. If he's not the decision maker, then I wonder who is. Well, maybe he's just not that decisive, like he's more of a figurehead or something. You know, he seemed really sweet to me, like more of an uncle than a business partner. He asked me all about my family and my hobbies and my favorite type of food.
Well, that's another thing. When I spoke to his assistant on the phone, who turns out is actually his daughter, she complained to me about us not having enough time scheduled for him. He's here for 5 days, and that's not enough time for him to get to know us?
I was wondering what you would have to talk about for 5 days worth of meetings.
Well, now we're here, and we finally have a chance to discuss business, and he wants to ask me about neighborhood and personal questions about my kids and a lot of other irrelevant stuff. And then he asked me for dinner tonight. Just 10 minutes with this man is exhausting.
Well, it is a little odd, but it's not that serious. I mean, the important thing is the contract, right? You think you can work it out with him?
I just don't know how to proceed. He seems unreliable. First, he's all smiles and charm, and then he gets angry at the first sign of disagreement. It doesn't seem to be much substance there, and I'm starting to question whether or not they're a serious company. They seem to be in it for a quick profit. He proposed a 1-year exclusive and a 2-year service contract. Can you imagine that? A serious company trying to launch a new product with such a small time commitment. I mean, we tested their product and it was great, and they seem to have a reliable reputation. It just doesn't add up. I don't know what to think.
Hi, honey. It's me. Yeah, well, we got done early. Yes, I am a bit upset. No, nothing. We can't work out somehow, but things didn't go as we expected at all. Actually, I was calling to cancel the video conference for tonight. Just tell the group it's too early. I'll have more to report tomorrow. I need time to think. Well, RPI isn't what we expected, and I'm unsure how to proceed. I'm not even sure they're serious about doing business with us. I'm definitely unsure about dealing with this Mana person. You talked to her on the phone, didn't you? How did she seem to you? Well, in person, she's like a robot. You can't engage her in conversation. She wants to get down to business immediately. She cut me off every time I tried to start a conversation. And I thought, maybe they're just hyper-focused on business when they're at the office, so I invited her and her husband out to dinner, just so we could have a human conversation. Oh, by the way, they only have me scheduled for 2 dinner meetings, and the rest of the time I'm completely on my own. Her assistant gave me a list of restaurants and museums so I can amuse myself. Anyway, she turned me down flat. They have other plans. Yes, well, this is more than just being businesslike. They don't seem to take the human component into account in any way. You saw the contract proposal. It maps out every tiny step of our collaboration with them right up to the day of delivery to the customer. Well, there's a penalty attached at every step for not completing it on time. I checked with her to see how serious they were about that, and they intend to enforce those penalties. No matter whether something happens to one of our suppliers, or if the price of platinum changes and our costs go up, RPI plans to enforce that contract. Right. They do not renegotiate contracts. Ever. Oh, and what's worse? They want a 3-year exclusive with very low volume in the first year. The whole point of the deal was that there was this big initiative, for their hospitals to upgrade their equipment. So we have to jump on this opportunity. Well, RPI isn't jumping on anything. I know they know their market, but this doesn't make sense. They want this airtight contract, and once they get that, they don't care about their relationship with us. And if the partnership doesn't work out, we're locked into this straitjacket. I don't know what I want to say to the group. The whole thing just seems very risky. And the way I deal with risk is I get to know the people I'm dealing with at every level. And our principal contact is a robot. Oh, and she tried to pressure me on pricing. Remember, we went over the pricing proposal very thoroughly, and we decided to agree with it, even though we thought it was a bit high, remember? Well, no sooner did I express to her that we accept their recommendation than she suggested something completely different, and she wanted me to answer on the spot while I was sitting there in her office. Yes, and she said she came up with the idea, apparently without consulting anybody else. I couldn't tell if anyone knew she was proposing this to me, or if it was approved, or what. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I think she wanted to rush me into making a snap decision. If she had come to us, I would have introduced her to our whole network, let her see what everyone does, give her a chance to get to know us. Oh, her assistant told me that Mana has only been with RPI for 2 years. How can she even understand the company in 2 years? And she was with 3 other companies before that. I have no idea why she left. Maybe she didn't work out there. And why would you even hire a job hopper like that? It's like I always tell you, in business, you have to surround yourself with people you know and trust. Now, a person like that just has no sense of commitment to her employer. And she's not going to have any sense of commitment to Argotech. I know they have a great reputation, but the deal they're offering us is very risky. I don't see how we can accept it. Yes, I have meetings with others this afternoon. Maybe I will feel different when I meet with them. Well, I'm sorry I got upset. She was just so insulting. She has no finesse, no subtlety. She's horribly rude. At one point, I made a suggestion to her, and she said, "It's completely out of the question." Can you imagine just coming out and saying something like that? I built Argotech from the ground up, and they want to force this airtight contract in my face and refuse to spend any time getting to know us. It's so fishy. Yeah, I'm heading back to hotel. I'm supposed to write a counterproposal to the contract. I'm tempted to just write, Step 1, we learn to trust each other. Step 2, we do business as friends. The end. Oh, I won't do any. I'm just going to go back and collect my thoughts.
So far, we've used the toolkit to identify cultural features at Argotech and RPI and predict problems they might have interacting together. We've also seen an example of how the cultural dimensions affect intercultural business exchanges. Now let's take a look at how to predict and solve problems. Your next assignment is to develop some strategies for Mana and Raul to use in dealing with each other. What might they have done differently? What cues might they have caught during their preparations for the meeting and the meeting itself? And how might they have responded to them to make things go more smoothly? Pause the video and take some time to look at the coping with differences and learning from them sections of the toolkit, so you can review the strategies of each feature. Let's imagine that Raul and Mana were more experienced with international business and were able to recognize the cultural features they were seeing in each other. First, we'll watch a replay of their meeting and then talk about the strategies they used.
Mana, this is Raul. Hello.
Such a pleasure to meet you at last. I'm looking forward to our discussions.
Oh, well, welcome to RPI. How was your trip?
Very nice. Only a slight delay in the flight. Nothing to worry about. The hotel is excellent. Very nice, very quiet. I slept very well. Thank you for making those arrangements.
My pleasure. Can I get you anything to drink?
No, thank you. I'm just fine. I enjoyed the ride in from the hotel, by the way. The city is lovely, and you have such a nice location. I'm looking forward to getting to see more of this area.
Yes, it's a very nice neighborhood. Very convenient. I live only a few blocks away.
That is convenient. I live about 30 minutes from work, but my wife and I drive in together. She's our VP of accounting.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes. And our daughter is my executive assistant, and my brother heads up our logistics, and my nephew works in procurement. All of our key employees are people I would trust with my life. I realize that family businesses aren't as common here, but trust is a vital aspect of business back home. We can't always rely on legal processes to make sure that our business partners behave honorably. Of course, we make sure everyone's well equipped for their job. My wife has a master's degree in accounting. Our daughter got her degree in HR from HEC in Paris. We're very proud of her. She's working toward becoming a person in HR by being my assistant. Yes, we've invested very heavily in our family employees at Argotech, making sure that everyone has the best education available.
It sounds like you have the best of both worlds. What an excellent strategy.
How about you? Do you have children?
Yes, I have 2 sons. One is 1 and the other is 3, and they're growing up far too fast. I would love to hear more about your family, but I want to make sure that you're ready for your afternoon meeting with Marcus, our sales director. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to go over the preliminary contracts we sent over and get your response on the pricing of the dispenser units. You said you would have an answer for us?
Yes, I see you're going to keep us on track. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I didn't respond to you right away. I needed to meet first with my executives and our partners. We all have to discuss issues like this.
I thought you might need some more time to discuss it. Normally, our decision-making process goes much quicker because it's only one person who's responsible for the decision. But we're fully prepared to accommodate any time that you may need in this process.
It does take us a while to make decisions, but once we do, we're all united and we move together very quickly and efficiently. Regarding your pricing proposal, it seems to us that your initial pricing might be a little high. We were thinking of going into the lower price in order to encourage first-time customers, but you know this market better than we do, and we trust your judgment, of course. So we accept your guidance on pricing. So if you're certain about it, we accept your pricing proposal.
Well, thank you. We definitely want to position your dispenser as a high-end product, but after we were talking, I began thinking that we might go into the pharmacies with a lower price point since they're slower to upgrade. But then for the hospitals, we can retain our individual high unit price and then lower the cost if the dispenser is bought as a part of the whole system. How does that sound to you? I know it's a new change, but...
I see. I can't really say offhand.
Oh, that's all right. I understand. Again, I know it's a new change, and in the future I'll try to refrain from any surprises, but I do believe it is an excellent strategy, especially if it's tailored to our various customers. How quickly do you think you could talk to your associates and review this strategy?
I'll try to let you know next week.
That's great, thank you. We can't move forward without a pricing strategy, so as soon as possible.
I'll let you know as soon as I can. I would like to discuss some other issues with the contract. This initial volume you're suggesting is very low, based on the opportunity you identified. With all the hospitals upgrading, we were expecting to go in with higher volume. The whole point for us is to capitalize on the hospital upgrade. Our product is the best in the market. We're expecting an aggressive sales strategy. I also noticed that you were recommending a 3-year exclusive sales agreement. Frankly speaking, we were thinking of starting with more of a trial arrangement, maybe a 1-year exclusive with a longer service contract that would give us both flexibility and we could see how things work out.
I see. It seems like you're focusing primarily on the current opportunity. Maybe it will help if I explain the environment we work in. And in this market, customers do business with us based on our reputation for reliability and the overall package we offer them, including features, pricing, and service contracts. They won't choose features alone, and we have to make sure they're comfortable with the prospects for maintenance and repair with any new product. The hospital upgrade will be a catalyst for looking for new products, but they won't buy quickly. Starting with a low volume and increasing is a good strategy and will match their buying pattern, but the strategy you're suggesting, moving in quickly with a low price and good new features, it could be effective for us in the North American market where there is low customer loyalty and sales are based on innovation. I'd like to talk with you more about how you approach your own domestic market because it sounds very similar.
All right, that sounds reasonable. Based on your explanation, I think we can agree to a 3-year exclusive, and maybe in return we could roll out our product to the North American market where we can increase our volume more rapidly. Let's keep talking about this. You know, I was thinking maybe it would be a good idea for us to just spend some time getting to know each other without focusing on all the business details just yet. I think it will help us reach agreement more easily if we know each other a little better. I know I'm going to be getting together with the marketing group tomorrow night for dinner. maybe we could get together this evening? I'd like to invite you and your husband to dinner. We could just relax and I can get to know this lovely city of yours.
Yes, I realized from my conversation with your assistant, your daughter, that you were feeling that our meetings would be a little rushed, and I want you to feel as comfortable as possible. So why don't we pick you up at your hotel this evening?
That would be wonderful. I look forward to it.
And now my last question. Do you have any other comments about the contract?
Well, yes, I wanted to look at this delivery schedule a bit. It has so many internal deadlines. I think it does make sense to list all of our internal steps to give an overall understanding of our process, but this is very detailed. And there are penalties attached to these milestones. As long as we deliver the product to the customer on time, it doesn't really matter when we finish these intermediary steps.
That's an interesting approach. Milestones are a central part of RPI's planning and project management. If we miss one, it's harder to make the next one and the whole project could slip. Internal deadlines help us stay on track. Our legal people will never approve a contract that doesn't specify milestones and each party's obligation. It's out of the question.
But if you miss one, your whole detailed schedule is thrown off. What's the point?
Well, if we miss a milestone, we deal with the penalty as indicated in the contract and redo the schedule with a plan for catching up. Our schedule isn't completely inflexible, but it helps us know where we are. How do you keep track of things without that kind of control?
Well, we work in a constantly changing environment and we have to make constant changes to adapt. If we revised our schedule every time we made a change, we would spend a huge amount of time on the schedule itself. Instead, we focus on the end result and we work each problem as it comes up. Our people are experts at troubleshooting complex issues, and we have a good reputation for on-time delivery.
Yes, you do. I've seen that. Well, let's see what we can do to find a compromise. We'll try to make the schedule a bit more flexible and see if we can get it past our legal people. Would you like to take a first stab at the revision?
I'll be happy to. But given how structured your contracts are, I'm curious to know how you make adjustments to one after it's been signed.
Why would we make a change to a contract after it's been signed?
Because of market changes, currency fluctuations. What if one partner is affected adversely by the deal because of things that have changed since the contract was signed?
We take contracts very seriously. The terms don't change just because the market does. And the way we see it, a deal is a deal. Why would you have a contract if you didn't plan to enforce it?
Well, a contract shouldn't be a bad deal for either partner, now or in the future. It should help maintain the relationship between our companies. We operate in an environment where flexibility is vital. As I mentioned, we can't afford to be locked into terms that won't change as the situation changes. In all our partnerships, we have long relationships with many ups and downs on both sides. If something comes up for one partner, the others adjust. It all evens out in the long run. 3 years is a very long time for us to be locked into a strictly worded contract.
Well, the way we manage contingencies is to write them into the contract with provisions for reviewing them. Why don't you take some time to look over what we've written up so far, and you can write any contingencies that you like, and we can see if we can't come to some sort of agreement. The contract should hold both parties responsible, and we are prepared to hold up our end of the contract, of course. Let me assure you, we want to work out an agreement that works for both parties involved.
All right. Well, that seems reasonable. Well, now that we've had a chance to talk over the main points, I'll take some time working up a counter-proposal before I meet with the sales director. And we can go over it when we meet tomorrow morning. This evening, I look forward to just getting to know you better. Thank you so much for your hospitality. And May I impose on your kind assistant to find a place for me to work before our next meeting?
With a little understanding of the cultural features, Mana and Raul have been able to recognize cultural patterns and avoid misjudging one another's competence and intentions. Using some basic strategies for dealing with differences, such as explaining themselves and asking questions, they've been able to sort out sources of confusion and find a way to proceed together. Let's look at how they've done this. First of all, Raul is aware that family-run businesses are viewed with suspicion in achievement cultures, and he takes time to explain why trustworthiness is so important in the business environment he works in.
I realize that family businesses aren't as common here, but trust is a vital aspect of business back home. We can't always rely on legal processes to make sure that our business partners behave honorably.
He also explains that employee competence is also a major concern for Argotech, which addresses Mana's achievement-oriented concern.
Of course, we make sure everyone's well equipped for their job. My wife has a master's degree in accounting. Our daughter got her degree in HR from HEC in Paris. Yes, we've invested very heavily in our family employees at Argotech, making sure that everyone has the best education available.
Next, Mana handles the issue of Raul's wanting to spend time on social preliminaries. She maintains a pleasant attitude and indicates that she's interested in his relationship-oriented goal of getting to know her, while steering him towards the job at hand.
I would love to hear more about your family, but I want to make sure that you're ready for your afternoon meeting with Marcus, our sales director. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to go over the preliminary contracts we sent over and get your response on the pricing of the dispenser units. You said you would have an answer for us?
Yes, I see you're going to keep us on track.
Raul recognizes her task-oriented focus, and since she's accommodating him in spirit, he allows her to draw him back to business. When Raul explains his consensus-style decision process, Mana recognizes it as a sign of collectivism, and realizes she'll need to give him more time than normal to come back with decisions.
I'm sorry I didn't respond to you right away. I needed to meet first with my executives and our partners. We all have to discuss issues like this.
I thought you might need some more time to discuss it. Normally, our decision-making process goes much quicker because it's only one person who's responsible for the decision. But we're fully prepared to accommodate any time that you may need in this process.
It does take us a while to make decisions, but once we do, we're all united and we move together very quickly and efficiently.
Rather than fight it, she makes a note that things will take a little longer. Raul acknowledges that this is the case, but mentions a strength of consensus-based systems. The fact that once decisions are made, they're quickly implemented, giving Mana a reason to be willing to accommodate him. Now that the two realize that their process of decision-making is different, they can sort out the fact that Raul can't give Mana a quick response when she comes up with a new idea. Raul agrees to get as quick a decision as possible, and Mana makes a note that she should bring ideas to him only once they're very well thought out. Off-the-cuff suggestions to a consensus-based partner will just complicate things.
Oh, that's all right, I understand. Again, I know it's a new change, and in the future I'll try to refrain from any surprises, but I do believe it is an excellent strategy.
The next source of confusion is the difference in strategy due to the long versus short-term cultural dimension. Mana realizes that RPI's long-term strategy isn't the only legitimate approach, and she's able to respond without indignation.
I see. It seems like you're focusing primarily on the current opportunity. Maybe it will help if I explain the environment we work in. And in this market, customers do business with us based on our reputation for reliability and the overall package we offer them, including features, pricing, and service contracts.
She explains it in terms of the specific market they're serving and helps Raul understand its justification. She also recognizes that the short-term approach Argotech has been taking in its home market has advantages in markets RPI is interested in, and realizes that the partnership may offer value in those markets.
But the strategy you're suggesting, moving in quickly with a low price and good new features, it could be effective for us in the North American market, where there is low customer loyalty and sales are based on innovation.
In this scenario, when Raul suggests dinner, Mana recognizes that developing a personal relationship is vitally important to him, and she doesn't resist. In any case, things are going well in the meeting, so she doesn't need to dread spending time with him.
Yes, I realized from my conversation with your assistant, your daughter, that you were feeling that our meetings would be a little rushed, and I want you to feel as comfortable as possible. So why don't we pick you up at your hotel this evening?
That would be wonderful. I look forward to it.
When it comes to the issue of contract specificity and enforcement, Raul's approach is new to Mana. But instead of showing her emotional reaction, she begins by explaining RPI's policies and why they seem important, and asks Raul to clarify the way Argotech does things.
Well, if we miss a milestone, we deal with the penalty as indicated in the contract and redo the schedule with a plan for catching up. Our schedule isn't completely inflexible, but it helps us know where we are. How do you keep track of things without that kind of control?
Although she and Raul are startled by one another's approaches, they avoid passing judgment until they've had a chance to understand the context responsible for each one. Raul is able to make it clear that the flexibility makes sense in the environment he does business in. Explaining how it works helps Mana make recommendations for meshing the two systems. Both have flexibility built in, as it turns out.
In all our partnerships, we have long relationships with many ups and downs on both sides. If something comes up for one partner, the others adjust. It all evens out in the long run.
Raul's system leaves things vague or renegotiates when conditions change, and Mana's specifies contingencies that might cause one partner to accommodate the other.
Why don't you take some time to look over what we've written up so far, and you can write any contingencies that you like, and we can see if we can't come to some sort of agreement.
The stylistic aspects of the interaction cause less trouble in this scenario as well. Raul and Mana are more sophisticated about variations along the dimensions of directness versus indirectness and expressiveness versus neutrality. Raul avoids jumping to the conclusion that Mana is a robot based on her lack of effusiveness and the fact that she wants to get down to business, and recognizes that her statement that a contract without milestones is out of the question is just a strongly worded clarification, not an attempt to insult him. Mana recognizes Raul's more expressive style as just that, a style, rather than an indication of instability. Because both participants are able to recognize value in each other's approach, they avoid seeming uncooperative to one another, and they're able to explore compromises in spite of some surprises. Using a strategy of explaining themselves, asking questions, and framing requests in terms of each other's values helps them navigate problems and avoid conflict. Thank you for participating in the Cultural Video Analysis exercise. We hope that this exercise further developed your knowledge of intercultural business relationships and helped you to explore the extent of your multicultural toolkit.